Hollywood is being rebuilt by artists not afraid to disrupt the status quo. Telling fresh stories and bringing to life characters who until now have been confined to the margins. This is Emerging Hollywood. Today we're meeting up with Alan Yang, the Emmy Award-winning co-creator and director of Master of None and Forever. Alan creates shows starring three-dimensional characters from diverse backgrounds who reflect the new state of entertainment. Alan Yang, what's happening, my brother?
What's up, man?
You good?
I'm great.
I feel like I met you before with Aziz.
You know what happened with Aziz a long time ago? We met over at the Greenwich Hotel. This was 5 years ago, maybe? It was a while ago.
Clearly you didn't find me interesting enough to put me on Master of None.
You know, there's still time. We might do another season.
True, true. Now, you picked this bar because you filmed here for a scene of Master of None, right?
Yeah, it was a while ago. I thought it brought back some good memories. It was a scene late in season 2. It was a scene with Aziz and Eric Wareheim. And as you can see here, the ceilings are really low, and Eric is 6'7", so he had to fold himself in two to sit where you are right now.
That was tight. What was it about comedy that drew you towards it? Like, was it I don't know, a defense mechanism growing up? Like, what was it?
Yeah, you would think so, but not so much, man. I felt like I got pretty lucky. You know, growing up, I was one of the only Asian kids in my school, but I managed to get by, and I wasn't really getting picked on. So it was more like a way for me to bond with my friends, and we would just make jokes all the time. We'd watch all these comedy shows, and it was just part of who I was.
So they always thought you was funny?
I always thought I was kind of funny, and I never thought this was a job. You know, like where I grew up, no one went into this business. Like, my parents are immigrants. You know, my dad's a doctor, my mom's a high school teacher, and this was not an option.
Are they proud of you, or were they disappointed when you decided?
Yeah, they're pretty proud now.
Okay, okay.
But you know, at the time, it was, you know, I had to explain to them. I was a biology
major at Harvard, right?
I was a biology major in college, and so that seems like you have a very bright future, and then you graduate and you tell your mom and dad you want to go write jokes or write scripts in Hollywood and be broke.
Well, how the hell did you end up in Hollywood? How does a biology major from Harvard end up in Hollywood to begin with?
Yeah, man. I mean, like, so when I got to school, I felt a little bit out of place. A couple things saved me. I started playing in a punk rock band, and I started writing for this comedy magazine called The Lampoon. Getting on the staff of that magazine, you're thrown into this fire, and there's all these people there, and they're funnier than you. And the only thing I can liken it to is the first day in a writer's room. So when you move out to LA, you get into a writer's room, there's 20 people looking at you, some of them who may have run your favorite shows. I remember working with Mike Scully on Parks and Recreation, who ran The Simpsons when I was a kid. Wow. So it's like, he's sitting next to you, he's pitching jokes.
A lot of pressure?
Are your jokes gonna beat his jokes? Yeah. You know, so what that magazine helps you do is become a little bit more comfortable, because in the beginning, you should maybe not speak up as much. You should learn how to be a little funnier before you say stuff, and then you start learning, you get better, you get better, you get better, you get funnier. You get funnier by hanging out with funny people. Yeah. And so when I graduated, it sort of gave me a little bit of confidence I needed to move out to LA and just give it a shot, you know?
Who was the first character that you saw on TV or in film that you saw yourself in?
Oh, man. Probably Jerry Seinfeld. You know, it's like, because I was obsessed with comedy. I was 12 or 13 or whatever. But, you know, I bought Jerry Seinfeld's book. Larry David, the same thing, where it's like, these guys just have an interesting view on the world. Yeah. And, you know, I think the expected answer is like, oh, I saw like an Asian character, but look, there's a lot more to us than what we look like, you know? It's like, what's your point of view? What shapes your sense of humor? And so that was really early on in the show. And I think later when we did Master of None, a lot of people were comparing it to other shows or these auteur shows or films. But what people don't talk about is like, we watched a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And that's like, some of the show was funny because we were inspired by those guys. You know, we love Larry, we love, you know, Seinfeld, all those guys. And that's kind of a secret thing that in the show, like, people don't really talk about as much.
You wrote for South Park too, right?
I did, yeah, that was crazy.
And Carson Daly's late night show.
That was my first job when I was 21, 22 here, yeah.
In Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
So how diverse were the writing rooms then?
It's a good question. So I will say for Parks and Rec, I think Mike Schur, who is the boss over there, did a great job. He always wanted to be 50% women because the show had a female lead, Amy Poehler. And, you know, we were just starting back then, you know, and I feel like South Park was a writing staff of like 2 or 3 people. So it was like, you know, I don't know how much diversity there was. I was the diversity probably that year. But, you know, I think that was like the that age. It was like we weren't even thinking about it. And that's a real deficiency. I mean, I think by the way, there's still writers' rooms out there that are super homogenous, super homogenized, and it's just kind of a secret, you know? It's like there's still rooms out there. So what you're missing out on is these other perspectives. Not that this happens that often, but let's say an issue about an Asian character or something like that comes up, and you're the only Asian person in the room, everyone just looks at you like, all right, speak for all Asian people, right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
It's tough because you don't speak for everybody, and you're just gonna do the best you can. But that's unavoidable in some ways. But we should do the best we can to avoid it.
For more episodes of Emerging Hollywood, subscribe to The Hollywood Reporter on YouTube.